Good morning. Our hand today is going to be Ace-4 clubs from the big blind. So we've got a player, villain 2, open raises. We've got over 400 hands with him. He's a tight player, tight aggressive. This is a player for mid position, raise first in 19%, early position, raise first in 7%. So we're looking something like this. That's 19%. He might have like more pocket pairs and get rid of like the king 9, queen 9. But that's about a 19% range. Small blind calls, and then it's on me in the big blind. I've got a decent hand. And if we look at the players, we don't know much about this player, 55 hands, but we do know that this player folds to 3-bet 67% of the time. So if I 3-bet, I think he's only going to continue with solid cards. I do have a 3-bet range from the big blind, and that's what this is. So it includes Ace-4 and Ace-5 versus mid position, along with some premiums. I've got nice blockers, so that's what I did at 3-bet to 12. And villain 2 calls. So knowing that he folds almost 2/3 of his hands, I went through and looked at it and said, okay, well, this might be a range that he calls. This is about 6%. So it's about just under 2/3 or so that he call, or just under a third of hands that he calls with. But I think it's definitely something pretty tight that he's going to be calling with. Pocket pairs. You've got your aces. A couple suited aces. I do think he's going to 4-bet with queens plus. So I made the 3-bet. Maybe he just calls with queens. But definitely he'll fold. I believe he'll 4-bet kings plus, and we do have that. We've got a 4-bet range of aces, a 3-bet range of queens plus queens to kings. So I do think he's going to be some really tight. Flop comes out king high. That does hit his range. It also hits our range, and I think so. Once we 3-bet, we almost always have to bet here. We have aces. We have kings. I don't think he has kings because he didn't raise my 3-bet. So I fired half pot. He calls right there. That's not too good. So I've got a bottom pair here. Got something. We have to think, what is he going to call with? His fold to c-bet stats actually pretty high, 75% in position, 86% out of position. So he has something. He's got a king. He may have a 9. He may have a pocket pair. So he could have 10s or jacks that he's doing this with. Hoping that I don't have the king or I miss the king. That's a possibility. I don't know if I have called. I don't have really much flop information. So the king comes out, pairs the board, gives me a flush, and this is a spot that I'm curious about. At the time, I did bet. I bet half pot. I felt I've just now improved my equity. I think it would be strange if I fired out another bet here. Or it would be strange if I started checking, especially if I had a king or aces or something like that. I do know that kings are going to call. I know the kings are going to call, but if a king calls, I still have outs to the flush. And I think that's all that I have. I only have outs to the flush. So I bet half pot. Villain raises announced to me, and it's like just under 40 big blinds to call here. The pot's offering me 140, so I'm almost at about 4-1, 3-1. Let's see here. We can calculate this. Well, I'm getting 3.85 to 1. I think. So this hand, I think I need the flush. So I think just from a straight pot odds type situation, I don't think I'm getting enough odds. And in the moment, I was trying to calculate it, off the top of my head, and I thought I'm right there. I'm kind of at the threshold. I could probably fold. I could probably call. I did call, and we ran it twice. And believe it or not, I hit the flush both times. And now we get to see what villain 2's range is. But I was curious about that turn bet. Do I continue firing the turn bet? I do think the king isn't that great a card for us. Yeah, the club is great, it is good, but I think of all of the hands that villain's going to be calling with, I do think kings are make up a pretty sizable portion of his range. So if I check and he bets, am I just going to have to default back to, well, am I getting the proper 4-1 or maybe even 3-1, thinking I could get one more bet out of him on the river? Um, what does GTO say? So that's what we're going to look at. Here it is. So built in the ranges, and sure enough, I'm leading out here. Not really surprised. I'm leading basically with everything. I've got big hands here. I need all the other hands, the ace 5, ace 4, just to kind of balance, give me a bluffing range. So I bet villain is going to be folding a big part of the time. He does call nines, jack 10, queen, jack, king, queen, so he does have some draws. We're going to assume that that's kind of how he plays it. Then the king of clubs comes out, and this is what I was afraid of. I kind of suspected that I should have checked, and this just kind of confirms it. More than like using outcome of a hand. Once we see his hand, thinking, oh man, I really shouldn't have bet or whatever. I just kind of had a feeling that king pairing, even though the club was good, was just awful for my hand. Because if I have kings, I basically have all the hands that are out there. And when we look at his hands that call, I mean, his calling range at this point is going to be mostly king, mostly maybe trip nines. So it does look like I should have been checking here. Is there any reason to bet here? No, not even with the club draw. So let's say I did bet, and he comes over the top with nines, jack 10. Let's say he raises, and at that point I'm calling 61% of the time. So we'll have to fix that. So I did check, or I didn't check. What I should have done was check. So if I check and villain bets half pot, what am I calling with? I'm calling with ace king. I'm calling with kings, and then some of the time I'm folding aces here. So even though I have the club draw, I am supposed to fold. It doesn't matter how much he bets. So if he bet 40, which was that's not a full size pot. Let's go back to the turn. It's not a full size pot bet. If he shoves, I think it's going to be even tighter. I think it'll just be ace king and kings, and probably just dump queens and aces. So I really should have played it better. All right, so what did he have? I remember the saying. He had pocket nine, so he played it accordingly. So let's go ahead and change it. Modify this, and let's say that looks like that's a great card for me, so I just go ahead and bet 100% here. How does that affect the decision tree? So I'll be back. All right, so decision trees up. We bet 100%. Now villain should be raising with a lot of hands. King, queen, queen, jack, jack 10. Basically raising everything. And when he does raise now, I do have a small call with ace 4. But as I said, I probably shouldn't have been doing that. He should just be calling with those kings. So or he's got a lot of kings or trips, so you can see that out of his combos, 3 of them are full house, 2 of them are 3 of a kind. Basically, like 1 combo is no made hand. So like I'm just behind. I should just fold if he goes ahead and fires the all-in bet. Just fire that all-in bet. All right, so let us change this. So we had 75% pot bet. Um, I want to do all in. Let's do 150% pot because I think that's all in. All right, I'm going to run this silver and we will be back. All right, this happens quickly. So we bet, he calls, king clubs comes out. We check what happens if he shoves all in, because I think that is a possibility. He just shoves all in here. Once I showed weakness and check to him, I think several players would do something like this. What am I calling? What am I folding? So basically, I'm still just calling ace, king, king, queen, and so forth. So no, this is just got to get away. I mean, it's the club helped me, but not necessarily the king. What if it's different? What if it was, let's say, a queen of clubs? With the queen of clubs, that presents it a little bit different. I still have a flush draw. We're still going to be betting small percentage with that ace four, but queens definitely now are betting with trick queens. Ace is king, ace king is checking behind. So let's say we check and he bets. We call with kings, we call with queens, we call with ace queen. We're not getting the odds to draw to that flush anymore, so we should just fold. If we bet and he raises, what are we calling with? Well, now at this point we're calling with the ace four. Much more likely that he might have like ace king himself or like a king queen, so we can see what hands is he doing then. Oh, I forgot queen jack, jack 10, jack 10s, the straight nines, trip nines. At least now we can improve. If we catch our flush, we actually figure out to win. What if it's a small one? Let's say it's a 3 of club or 4 clubs. 4 clubs gives us a full house now. So with our full house, no, we can't. Let's not do. I don't want that. Let's do 5 of clubs first. So still keep with us having a flush draw. So you can see as I'm changing these, I'm betting, continuing to bet those low ones. The 10, the jack, it changes with the 10. Oops. Changes with the 10. All of the low ones, looks like we still are firing the bet with ace king, and then we're going to still fire a little bit with the ace 4 and the ace 5, especially ace 4, ace 5, regardless of if we have the club draw or not. But if we bet on that 2 of clubs and he comes over the top, we're still calling. We figure that our flush is going to be ahead, or at least will win us the pot if we hit, whereas the other one, the paired board, we can't be so sure. So let us change it and say, let's say it was a 4 spades that came out. With the 4 spades, we just hit trips. Looks like we're checking, just like we're checking kings. We're checking ace king. We're betting ace 5 as a bluff. And I think that balances the aces that we're betting. If we get raised, we're probably going to be folding those. Yep, folding ace 5. Still calling a little bit with the aces, still calling with the ace king. We could probably make it an exploitative fold, because if we get raised here, I don't really have a whole lot of kings. I mean, why would king queen raise here? There's really no draw on the board. So I think if we get raised, I think we're looking at a 4 or a 9. We're looking at trip 4s or possibly full house, completed full house. So messed up this one. Really should have checked on the turn and probably end up folding to the bet. Kind of felt that way, but confirmed with GTO now. So hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you did, look tomorrow for another hand.